The Wyoming Division Model Railroad, a privately owned model railroad built in the small town of Cornville, Arizona, just a few miles southwest of the world-famous town of Sedona in Oak Creek Canyon. Details of the development of this beautiful model railroad empire can be found in the Wyoming Division Model Railroad website, as it's listed in the details section of this video on YouTube. We are thankful to Beryl Fosnight for his extensive effort and resources to build this fantastic exhibit of the Union Pacific Railroad as it appeared in the late 1950s through Wyoming and Utah. Our tour today starts with train number 4019 as it's leaving the Cheyanne, Wyoming freight yards with a manifest freight heading west toward Laramie. The locomotive assigned to this is a legendary Big Boy 4884 steam locomotive originally built by the American Locomotive Company for the Union Pacific to tame the steep grades of the Wasatch Mountain Range between Green River, Wyoming and Ogden, Utah. Archives suggest that the original name for this locomotive was the Wasatch, but it became better known as the Big Boy from an anonymous author's note scrawled on the front boilerplate panel during construction. In the late 1940s, the Big Boys were reassigned to the trackage between Cheyanne and Laramie, Wyoming, to handle the grades of Sherman Hill and the Hermosa tunnels. As our train leaves the Cheyanne yard limits, it passes the Wycon chemical plant and starts up the long grade of Sherman Hill past Granite. As the Big Boy labors under the grade, we have time to examine the detail of the scenery. In the words of Alan Montgomery, Wyoming Division Historical Society's chief scenery designer,
the backdrop was done by an artist here in the Verde Valley who used a combination of Google Earth and photographs dictated by historical photos and some of my favorite photographs by, Aaron Berger and Richard Kindig. He worked with me in trying to get all the angles correct. This only looks good from standing in this position so that it's more recognizable, like the photos in the books that most people see and their only real exposure to Sherman Hill in Wyoming, since most people don't go there. So all the rocks are made up of 5-minute powdered drywall mud. I just put all that into a bucket and dribble water onto it and let gravity and physics take its course, and you get a very randomized pattern, and then I brush them off and then you can start putting on washes to get the color in, and it's so much, I find it visually appealing because it looks more natural than when you're consciously trying to make a rock.
Another very talented contributor to this model railroad empire is Lanny Wyatt. In the early days of the construction, Lanny planned the electrical power distribution for the building and the DCC control for the layout. Lanny also constructed the numerous turnout control panels that can be seen around the layout. With his extensive knowledge of 3D printing, he has fabricated miles of snow fences common to this area of the country, along with a vast assortment of other minute detail items that populate the towns and desolate areas depicted along the main line. Lanny also attends to the repairs of motor power and rolling stock, along with keeping the NCE digital command control system in working order. We continue to follow our train up the long grade of Sherman Hill and over the Continental Divide, where our train transitions over to left-hand running going into the Hermosa Tunnel and down to Laramie. Left-hand running allows the uphill traffic to travel a slightly lesser grade, while the downhill train fights gravity to control its speed. Our train eases off the power and begins a controlled descent down the west side of Sherman Hill, over fills and through remote stretches of the mountainous terrain. As our train coasts into the runout of the mountain grade, it passes the ready-mix cement plant and the creosote treatment plant, where we see stacks of fresh railroad ties ready for transport to repair old track and install new sidings. We turn our attention back to train 4006, which we saw left-hand running up Sherman Hill as it charges past the Harriman coal loader on its way down to Cheyanne. Of particular interest in the scenery in this view, there are no less than 4 pop-up hatches between the two main lines. Another testament to the attention to detail that Allen has taken to make this a first-class model railroad. The Laramie Yard is just beyond the signal bridge, and our train slows to yard speed limits as it nears the end of the locomotive's task. A lighter locomotive will be placed on the point of a freight train for its trip across the open prairies of Wyoming to the next engine change point in Green River. The Laramie roundhouse and coal tipple appear in the background where a fresh locomotive is waiting to take over this train for the next leg of its journey. The turntable is a significant part of the locomotive servicing facility to turn locomotives for their next job back east to Cheyanne or west to Green River. While the big boy is positioned under the coal tipple for a fresh load of solid fuel, its replacement, a 4664 Challenger, moves out to take up our train for the fast trip across the open plains of Wyoming. Our train number changes to 3943 for this leg of our tour, and the dispatchers make note of it in their timetables. Our tour of the Wyoming Division Historical Society Model Railroad will continue with Section 2 of this 3-part video.